saying Boris Johnson is on the left wing or even too far left, if you know anything about Boris Johnson's politics, the policies he's advocated for, or just the general thing, his voting record, indeed, even in the past, to say that he's, quote, too far left is incredibly, well, not only hysterical, but isn't even really paying attention to the fact of who Boris Johnson is. It would be like these people, anyone who says that Boris Johnson is too far left doesn't even have a clue about who Boris Johnson even is. But we now have to worry about this and worry about a Tory party who sees Johnson as too far left. Why? It all goes back to Brexit. When Brexit happened, it was pushed by a very small number of far-right radicals who wanted out of the EU at any cost and wanted to institute their vision of Singapore on the Thames. But of course, when they finally got their much vaunted Brexit, or even prior to that during the referendum, they daren't push that as the vision for what they wanted to do because they knew no one would vote for it. Hence why at the referendum, it was widespread and changed. And even through that, after the referendum happened, we saw what happened under Theresa May. This, again, very small right-wing libertarian group started pushing more and more and further. And quite frankly, they haven't stopped yet. We've seen this to the new crime and policing bill. We saw RAB yesterday want to reform the justice system to get rid of the wokery and political correctness. Yeah, we're only this far gone because there are now radicals in there who are trying to pull the Tory party even more right, which is leaving people like Boris Johnson being perceived as too far left. Again, oh dear me, yeah. So let's dive into even more of this because trust me, this absolutely flabbergasting the more you start to under this and really start to realize the true crisis that is unraveling in the Tory party. So before we do jump into that, though, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and, of course, the One Up Nation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do support the channel that way. So on with the article then. This comes from The Guardian with the title, Fear for a Party That Sees Boris Johnson as Too Far to the Left. The vultures are circling again. Just 2 years after the Conservative Party tore apart its last leader, here is yet another worst week for the beleaguered Prime Minister. After his planned week announcing new crime policies switched to probes into possible Downing Street law-breaking, when the, quote, rat-arsed at the Tory parties became this year's topical panto joke, things have turned serious. He now faces a major rebellion this Tuesday. Him and his COVID regulations are likely to be saved only by Labour's public health seriousness. The following day, he faces yet another pasting at Prime Minister's question times, and then on Thursday, a by-election with Labour 9 points ahead nationally. And North Shropshire may be held and yet still will signal such a Tory collapse that statistically it now endangers Boris Johnson's very own seat. Voters knowingly elected a liar, but they rarely ever forgive chaotic incompetence. Johnson's fates now rest with those who elevated him, the nexus of the party within a party that hold the real Tory power. This week, Steve Baker, the MP, relaunches the Conservative Way Forward Foundation to guard Margaret Thatcher's flame. These idolaters ask themselves, what would Maggie do? Which has very little historical sense, as those who claim to know the answer to what would Jesus do. A prime saboteur, Baker is an agent in all the right-wing caucuses to riddle the Tory party. He chairs the COVID recovery group, which is stirring the Plan B rebellion, and he is a core member of the European Research Group, or the ERG, a member of the Global Warming Policy Foundation, a group of deniers trying to block climate-saving actions, and a founder of the Coben Centre, promoting hardline free market economics, and as a skydiving born-again Christian who was baptized in the sea, Baker also belongs to the Cornerstone Group for Family, Faith and Flag, and voted against same-sex marriage. Again, a lot of groups in the Tory party. You can see where all this is headed. All revolutionary insurgents, of course, need new causes. And Baker's airy manifesto for the way forward in the Sunday Telegraph declares this. The Conservative Party is in the wrong place, as it accuses it of carrying on with centre-left politics. In a litany of objections to COVID regulations he protests, the Conservatives don't create societies where people must live and work in fear of a minister just might, without notice, impose restrictions on them. As the Omicron variant arrives in over-filled hospitals, he says Johnson's plan B is creating a miserable dystopia. Yet, for all his low-tax yearning, Baker has just enough political sense never to say what public spending he would actually axe. Professor Tim Bale, a political party analyst, points to this very reason, that 2/5 of Tory members are over the age of 65, creating a state-financed social care and the NHS. Of course, Johnson's enemies, the Remainer greybeards that he threw out, such as Ken Clarke, Michael Heseltine, and Dominic Grieve, may yet smile at the irony of seeing him now threatened by the turbulent disruptors, this new cadre model of themselves on the Trumpian Republicans of the Christian far right. I believe that God has made us to stand and live in liberty, Baker told the Financial Times. Does that stuff still fly in North Shropshire, we have to ask. Johnson would obviously be in less trouble if his government wasn't charging full speed ahead in any direction. Instead, he just dithers with the levelling up and small state austerity while zigzagging between slogans without policies, while laced into a very eye-watering budgetary corset. Without the fast-forward propulsion, governments topple people. And with greatest consideration, Baker says he's not seeking Johnson's head on a plate yet. I want Boris Johnson to rescue his position, he says. Things are not good. If they do tire of Johnson, Liz Truss is the obvious candidate to be his successor. Her blazing zealotry frightens many, though. Dominic Cummings calls her a human hand grenade. A founder of the Free Enterprise Group and obviously a co-author of the very notorious new Tory right manual, Britannia Unchained, her photo ops mimic Thatcher imagery in a tank hugging a calf, yet she lacks her very idol's political filters. Who else could try and solve the childcare crisis by deregulating childminders to let them each take in 2 to 6 year olds? So, of course, the Conservative Party way forward is a foundation on behalf of the party. It's no longer recognisable Conservatives. If so, they are entryists who try and subvert it over the decades. Where Neil Kinnock rooted out the militancy tended teetering at Labour's grassroots, the Tory party has always appeased its rebels. When Baker was the chair of the ERG, Theresa May made him a minister. When Suella Braverman took over the ERG head, she was similarly rewarded. Even with her ERG successor, the outlandish Jacob Rees-Mogg, was swept up into the government, with the deputy ERG chair, Angela Jenkins, has been elected to the whip's office. A very bizarre appointment given the ERG's very own hostile whipping operation. Though failing obviously to stand up for conservatism of Harold Macmillan and Edward Heath, the Tory party has plunged further right than most of its voters. Just 200,000 largely rightist party members for several decades have selected none but Brexiteers, libertarians, and obsessive state shrinkers. The result, according to Bale, is that MPs they have picked are now even further right than those of the party members. And about 100 Tory MPs may be planning to vote against Plan B today is well beyond the usual suspects, including such relative moderates as Tom Tunlett and Tobias Ellwood. Some MPs obviously feel the pressure from local parties, while others are simply venting fury at Johnson's catalogues of failures. But remember this. Those who vote against the measures to tackle Omicron are irrationally defying the best scientific opinion. Sir Graham Bradley, head of the 1922 committee, calls these modest restrictions Soviet style. Reaching for Stalin is really the end of rational debate. Here is a party falling apart, eaten from within by the failure of to try and appease the extremists. This is not primarily about Johnson's unfitness for office. It's about the brazen and dangerous nature of this extreme party that this party has put him in power and will replace him as any whim takes him. This is about a party that has become too unfit to govern. And I think that sums it up. That's it. This is the main point we want to get through on this article. This is how insane the Tory party has become. Through failing to stand up for the conservatism of Harold Macmillan and Edward Heath, the Tory party has plunged further right than most of its voters. Just 200,000 largely rightist party members have, for several decades, selected none but Brexiteers, libertarians, and obsessive state shrinkers. The result, according to Bale, is the MPs that have now picked are now even further right than those party members. This is a party that is going to fall apart sooner or later. Preferably, I would hope sooner rather than later. But put it this way, this is what the party has now become. And we are now seeing, slowly but surely, people like Steve Baker start to, shall we say, more openly express some of their even more far-right views, while not, shall we say, openly saying that they want to get rid of the NHS yet, and of course, state pensions, and obviously other things that help, shall we say, mainly keep their voter base afloat. This is the direction the Tory party is going. It's going even more hard right all the time. And it will fall apart sooner or later because it is out of step completely of what the rest of the country wants. I've said time and time again, when people are polled in this country about ideas and policies that they want, it's overwhelmingly left-wing progressive policies. Overwhelmingly. And yet the Tories have just enough staying power to keep in power, mostly because, again, of our current voting system, which allows them to keep where they are, of course. And, of course, they have vast amounts of money to help them at any political, shall we say, engagements to help do this. And I think there is yet another sea change coming in British political politics, and I think it is going to fall hard eventually on the Tory party. And all it will take for Labour to really pull their finger out and start being ambitious and start putting forward some proper progressive policies, because that's how they can defeat the Tories very, very easily at the next election. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.